We got this information on you, Ed, from the Samuel Derby Legion list. And I understand that's relation, right? Samuel Derby?
He's my uncle.
And what was the story behind him which led to them naming the post after him?
Well, he was the only one that was killed during the World War I from this area. And that's why they named the post after him. But now, when he died was killed in action in France. Mm-hmm. And it was just about 2 days before the armistice, and he was killed. And they brought his body back, and they had brought him in by train. At the time there was a train that went into Frewsburg, and they brought his body in by train, and then they had a procession walking up to the cemetery with a horse-drawn wagon, and then he was buried at that time. So then they named the post after him, and he was my dad's brother. I know my grandmother was, of course, very, very sad, and but the government sent her a check. I don't know how much it was, very, very minimal, though I know that for each month that they sent her a check until she died. I was born in Frewsburg, went to school in Frewsburg, graduated in Frewsburg.
In the class of?
44. The only part I remember is he used to come back home to see his sister, and his sister lived right next to my wife, my ex-wife. And I used to see him come in the driveway once in a while with a big Lincoln and 4 or 5, I suppose, guards with him, and he'd go in and talked with him for a little while, and then he'd leave. But it was interesting to see him walk in the house. And then I wanted to go in the Navy, so I just decided that's what I wanted to do.
So literally you graduate in 1944 and then enlist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I was out. I was in for 2 years. Then after the war, I got right out.
Where did you do your basic?
Sampson.
Tell me your best story about Samson. This here you walk in, a young kid from Frewsburg,
yeah,
and next thing you know, with a group with a bunch of people, they hand you your stuff.
Well, the thing about the first thing you do, you pick out your friends, excuse me, and then your bunk meet, the one that was up or down, and then you're with them for the rest of your boot camp. You associate with the other ones, but you kind of find your own group and go with that.
How many people were in this group? Sort of a clique did you have? Was it?
Oh, probably half a dozen.
Half dozen?
Yeah, maybe 10 or 12. I don't remember, but I remember their names. But I know one kid that I was really close to, and is Edward Duffy. And ERD, his initials were the same as mine, and that's why we bunked close together because of our name. Got on a troop train. We didn't know where we were going. Some were going for PT boat, and some were going to airline or
Airplane maintenance?
Yes, airplane. So, but we didn't know when we got on the train. But it was interesting going on a troop train. We would stop in different towns, and they would be there with sandwiches and candy, and it was very nice. And then, whether it was the middle of the night or when it was, they were always out there. Different towns you go through.
Your troop train was heading where?
To Florida. I was at Bronson Field, and then there was the main base. And we was what we called plane captains too. We had a shack out on the runway, and then we'd be sure that the planes were all gassed and cleaned up, and then there was a parachute loft, and the pilots would go in. This was just training.
Right.
Pilots would go in and get their parachutes. We'd strap them in, and then when they would go out for training, and there was a long sleeve, and they would aim. They would dive onto the sleeve and try to hit it, and that was their training. Some of them, once in a while, didn't come back. There's the instructor, and he has this tied to the back of his plane.
Hmm.
And then he has a button and he presses, and that extends it out fast, quite a ways.
It was a flying target for other planes
that's
to shoot.
right,
Yeah.
a flying target. And they would dive for that. And then they would have different colors, so they knew who hit it and who didn't.
Yeah.
And there are probably, I'd say, probably 20 planes on our field, and then each one had a plane that they took care of, kept it clean and kept it. And if there's any maintenance, you'd have to do the maintenance on it.
You were assigned to a specific plane.
That's correct.
Did it have a name?
No, just a number.
What was the number? Do you remember that?
4.
4?
4?
That was my lucky number.
Oh, I see.
I can see.
In high school, when I played basketball, I had number 4, and I flew out over the Gulf far enough so I got flight skins.
Yeah.
But that was on a seaplane.
What does the term flight skins mean?
You get paid. You get paid for going up.
Yeah.
I was discharged right from Bronson.
Bronson.
You never got
They
overseas?
closed. No, I never did. Never got overseas.
The Japanese have accepted our terms fully. That's the word we've just received from the White House in Washington. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Second World War.
Yes, I remember celebrating, but we couldn't go off the base. We did our celebrating right there on the base.
What form did it take? Did they break out some booze?
Oh yeah, there was celebration, and now we'll be able to go home. One thing that this guy was kind of crazy. Didn't care about the service at all, and he'd be off the base as much as he could. I wanted to borrow my whites because he didn't have any, and he says, "I'll be back and I'll give them to you." We never saw him again. He went AWOL, and my name was on his clothes, so I thought about that. I wonder what was going to happen, but nothing ever came.
They never caught up with him.
Never came. He never came back. As far as I know, he went AWOL. Of course, a lot of crap games after you got your pay. We got tickets to the Sugar Bowl, and there was I remember Duke and Georgia, I think it was playing. Trippy was the
Charlie Trippett.
yeah, he was the quarterback that was playing at that time. Charlie Trippy, yeah.
He might be the best athlete to ever play at Georgia. He was an All-American baseball player and the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy in 1946.
Marilyn mentioned the fact you enlisted, but prior to that time, your 2 older brothers had already.
We were all 3 in the Navy.
How was it at home with your mom and dad knowing you got their 3 children in the service?
Well, I remember, of course, the 3 stars in the window, but then also pulling the shades down at night to make it dark, and there was no street lights, and I remember that quite vividly. They didn't let it bother them. They kept it. Well, they're doing this for the country. They accepted it. Of course, my mother and dad were both Christians, and they felt that And if this was the way it had to be, then this was
Mhm.
going to be. So they did accept it very, very nicely. We all got discharged, and so we were all safe, and nothing happened to us.
Did you talk among the brothers about what their experiences were?
No, we didn't. My brother closest to me was 3 years older, and my other brother was 15 years older than I.
Gosh.
So, there's quite an age gap.